Hi guys, welcome to part 3 of my Wet on Wet series, mini series on YouTube here. In today's video, we are going to be carrying on with our exploration of Wet on Wet, and we are going to be painting pastel skies or cotton candy skies. I feel like this is such a pretty effect, especially if you're going for those Maui beach vibes. So here we go. Just like the previous two videos, we are going to be using the same 3 supplies throughout. So we've got our Princeton brushes in the Neptune number 6 and the Princeton Velvetouch number 4. I'm using my Sketchbook by Paul Rubens in the hot press. I've got water handy on the side, and then my colors are by Mei Liang. I've got a palette ready over here as well, and we're going to start. Let me just break this down for you real quickly before we start mixing. Oh, don't forget your paper towel, just in case you need to do some dabbing. So the process with this over here is going to be, we're wetting the area with water. So we're going to be using, I'm going to use a larger brush just to dampen the whole area. So I'll use the flat brush Velvetouch that comes in the pack, and feel free to use whatever you want. You can also use this, it's just going to take a little bit longer. So using this, and what I'm going to do is, what we need to do is allow the water to sit for a little bit. So make sure you go over it at least 2 times. This is where you will really test your paper credibility. So if you're not using the Paul Rubens block sketchbook, you might find it to be a little bit different. If you're using Arches, for instance, you'll find it to be fabulous. You could even take that sheet and wet it under a tap. At least I've seen that demonstrated. So it holds a lot of water. You got to allow the water to sit. You have to allow the water, the paper to sort of soak the water in, and then we go in with our beautiful color. Okay, so ready? Let's go. So I'm going to use my flat brush, and we're going to go ahead and dampen this area real nice. Feel free to use the number 6. This is a small surface, but again, I just wanted to make sure this area is damp quicker, so then I can focus in on mixing some color while the paper absorbs the water. Oh, one more thing you've noticed, I've got this pretty frame happening here. I've just taped it up just so I can get a nice white border. Feel free to just not have it taped up if you're just sort of trying this out first. Okay, so now using the number 6, I am going to mix some of my favorite colors for my sky. I'll start off with using, actually, let me show you over here. So I really like using the rose red and the sky blue for my skies. It gives me that very cotton candy, candy floss sort of look to it. Could also throw in a little bit of fresh purple or deep violet. Those also look really nice. But I think I'll go with I'm going to go with the rose red, a little bit of the violet red, and then some of the fresh blue. So here we go. So my first color that I'm going to do, just want to make sure that everything is nice and damp. So it's important that the area is damp for you to get this beautiful effect, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get some of my violet red first, and I'm mixing it on here so it's like this beautiful quin lilac almost, or quin rose. And I'm going to start from the top, and I'm going to go holding my brush at a slant and just flick of the wrist and allow the color to sort of blend in. And then I'm going in and I'm adding more in this area. Why? Because if you've been watching my last 2 videos, you guys would know the reason I'm doing this is so that it gets darker at the edges because if you add more layers there, it gets darker. And look how pretty this is. And you can see how it's kind of, there's like little rivers of color going downward. So I'm just going to add a couple of more little strokes in here. Now, the lower you get, leave a lot of white space wherever you can. And I'm just adding a tad bit more. And then I'm going to switch out and get some of the other colors. So let's go with, I'm going to go and get some of my rose red. And I'm just adding a couple of strokes of this rose red in here. Now you can see what I've done here is too much water, so this is where the paper towels come in handy. And just lightly dab so that it doesn't get too much pooling happening. And then last but not least, what I want to do is add some of that sky blue. So I'm going to get some of that sky blue, mix it out over here. And what's going to happen, you're going to notice when we add the sky blue, is that you're going to get some like purple bits happening. Why? Because when you mix these two colors in, you get a purple. And this is what really intensifies the effect and makes it super cute and super dreamlike. It's like you're in Unicorn Land or Maui, Hawaii, somewhere. Just adding a little bit more of these strokes in here. And then you can sort of just washing off most of the color, just lightly bring it down. And now what we're going to do is, I'm also taking away some of these rivers of color going downward. So I'm just lightly pushing it along. And I'm leaving that extra, that little bit of white space that we've got happening in there. I'm going to extend this all the way down, leaving a little bit of space down there. And what we're going to do is now add a little bit more intense color. So now this is again wet on wet because my area is still damp. So I'm going to get some of the violet red again, and I'm just going to add a couple of strokes in here. And I just want to intensify and add some sort of hierarchy to my layering here. So this is where I encourage you guys to sort of try this out. It took me quite a couple of tries to sort of come to a method or a technique that I really liked. And also, skies are not the easiest if you're trying to really get that beautiful color happening and whatnot. So sometimes it can be a little bit domineering, but try this a few times and I promise you, you will love doing these candy floss style skies just as much as I do. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of lightly adding a couple of finer looking clouds, because you start with your thickest at the top and then you go smaller as you go downward to give that perspective. That's all I'm doing here. And that's it. So I'm going to leave the sky that way and we're going to focus in on doing a couple of trees. For that, I'm going to use my number 4. And let's make the trees like a nice purple, just to sort of keep with this whole candy cane theme that we have happening. So I'm going to mix some of my deep violet onto the side here. And I will even mix a little bit of, feel free to mix a little bit of black or Payne's gray just to deepen the darkness of it, because I want it to be more like a shadow than a pop of color, because we've got lots of pop happening there. Now my sheet is semi-dry, so what I'm going to do is just add a couple of trees just in the area where I can see that the dampness is like ending, because there's a little bit of a dry area here. So here we go. I want to do something like this. I'm going to do my little tree stump and then just allow the water to create the tree for me. Now I wanted a little bit more space at the bottom here, but that's okay, because what will happen is when you sort of do this only in the area where it's damp, you get that beautiful flare. So you're not working too hard to get your tree. Your tree is automatically being formed. And you can do different shapes, and it is a beautiful, beautiful effect. You could even try this in a couple of different colors if you wish. So maybe like a navy or an indigo would be nice. And then if you want to go in and just intensify the darkness of your trees right there, you're good. I'll do one more here. And you can see how it just flares out immediately. So pretty. So if you wanted taller trees, you just sort of do your dotted upwards and then slowly bring it downward, and you get that beautiful shape. And because the page is like semi-damp, you're not getting crazy rivers like we had at the beginning, but you're just getting soft little edges over here. And then look at the tree stumps, because it's not damp in that area, it's nice and straight. There's no hard edged, there's no bleeds happening. So now I'm going to take these excess purple, violet, get a little more black in it, and I'm going to add just a couple of strokes here on these trees, because now we're going to give this a horizon or a base, so to speak. Again, I don't have too much space because I took up most of it with the sky, but immediately we're going in with this, let's take the number 6 because that's what we're using. And we are just going to do this. And that is it. We've got our pretty sky. What you could do is just go in and intensify the base if you wish. Just adding a little bit more of that color right here where it is, and maybe over here at the side if you want to. You don't have to. So now you allow this to dry, and then we see the final results. And we're back. I took it off and it has given me a very clean edge. I love how this looks. Super cute, super pretty. Great way to practice your wet on wet. And here we go with our final step. So I've got a little bit of the dark purple mixed with the black, with a little bit more black. And I'm using my number 4, and we're going to use just the tip of the brush to create some cute little birds in the sky. And so I'm holding my brush like this to sort of just graze the tip of this brush. This is why I love the Velvetouch series, because it's got some really fine tips that you're able to use as a beginner without buying a whole bunch of brushes, not knowing if you're going to be painting all that much or if you're going to like it too much, or maybe you just don't have the budget. I just think it's a fabulous buy. And very economical too. So 2 birds, and let's do a third one. Super tiny. Yeah, in fact, let's do a 4th and a 5th. There we go. So we've got 5 little birds in the sky. And that's it. I love it. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the whole wet on wet. We've done 3 videos so far. I've listed the other 2 below. feel free to check that out. If you do end up painting this, please tag me. I am on Instagram and Facebook. I would love to see your work. And if you like this video, guys, please hit the subscribe button and also hit the like button. It really does help my channel grow. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week with another video continuing on in this mini series of mine.